Thanks for listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Mike Luke, joined by the GOAT, Brian Jeffries. Hello, Brian Jeffries. Coming to you live from the bunker in the basement, it looks like. Hello, how are you doing?
Working hard as always, Mike. We're 10 days away from that first football game, and it's that busy time of the year. You knew it was coming. I mean, we've known forever. August 31st was on the calendar, but just the same, you get down to those last couple of weeks, and it's mayhem in this office. As you can see, there is a myriad of activity going on right now.
Well, all right, Brian, let's be honest. Brian, how tall are you? And don't do like Brody does and lie about your height. How legitimately tall are you? Don't say 6'1".
6'4" and a half, 6'5" if I stand up straight.
Okay. Now, how tall is that ceiling? Because it looks like it's about 4 foot. It looks like something that would be something that I could walk into and maybe...
Well, this is commonly referred to as a slanted suite.
Interesting.
And so I'm fine unless I go that way.
Okay. The slanted suite, I like it.
Yes. So it's it's higher rent when you go to the slanted suite, but I decided to go for it, pay a couple extra bucks and get the slant.
All right, now, before we get to some on-the-field stuff, what has the GOAT been up to this summer? Like I said, a lot of people always say, what's he been up to? What is the summer like for Brian Jeffries? I know you're probably getting some good seafood in Las Vegas, but besides that, what else are you doing?
I only get good seafood in Las Vegas, Mike, when you send me gift cards. That's the only time I go there. Other than the usual busy getting ready for another very busy 9 months between football, basketball, and baseball. We crossed something off the bucket list this year, Mike. Went to Napa, California.
Ooh, wine country.
Never been there before. And it was spectacular. I mean, the scenery, the vineyards just go for miles. And it was one of those experiences that I'll never forget, one of the best vacations we've ever had.
Yeah, oh, very cool, very cool. Did now I was going to say, so what was it? You and the missus that went?
Yes, yeah.
All right.
Yes, the children were not involved.
I was going to say the children better not have been involved in this one, Brian. Let's be honest.
No.
Okay. No, obviously there's a lot that's gone on. I wanted to get your take. I saw you and Lamont Lovett, the great Lamont Lovett, up in the press box at last Saturday. I want to get your listen, you've called these games up close. Arizona's had a lot of really good football seasons over the years. But the one thing that's always kind of eluded is being able to string together those back-to-back seasons. When you look at this team, because you've seen great teams up close, you've seen bad teams up close. What do you look at, just from your bird's eye view from the press box, what did you see?
Well, I like what I see right now, and I think for a lot of reasons, and you start just with the returning talent that's back. In particular, at some of the star positions, I'll call them: quarterback, wide receiver, linebacker, defensive backfield, place kicker. You've got some guys that are difference makers on this team. And so if they play to the level that they have been in their Arizona careers thus far, that's going to take care of itself. The NIL and the transfer portal has done a lot to change the landscape of college sports. So nowadays, you can go out almost like a professional franchise and find new players, and that fills holes in a hurry. And so I think that's what Brent Brennan and his staff have done. There have been some areas, in particular on the defensive front, I think, where you lost a lot of talent there, and you needed to go out and find some new faces, some new bodies to fill in there. And from what I've seen, they've accomplished exactly that. They may not be household names, but these are guys that have already played college football, and so they're not green freshmen coming in. And from what I've been told, and I'm certainly not an expert, but just watching them in practice, and then when I'm told by the coaches, they feel very confident in some of the new players that they're going to be able to contribute from the outset. And that's going to be the key. Nowadays in college football, you've got to be ready to go from game one. There's not much of a break-in period for talent because of the way the rosters are now structured. So I look at it this way, Mike, and I look at this every year, that if you can stay relatively injury-free and if your players play up to their expectations, then you got a chance to have a good, if not very good team.
Now, listen, I think there's something that you're purposely avoiding here, Brian Jeffries, that I think we need to talk about here. This is something that you brought up to me on the phone last week. an all Luke backfield. How exciting would that be with a Caden Luke and a Rayshon Speedy Luke? Brian, let's not act like this hasn't been a massive part of your preparation going forward.
Law firm of Luke, and Luke.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Of course, into this.
But on a serious note, though, Brian.
On a serious note, yeah.
Yes. Listen, I think you hit the nail on the head. The one thing about this team is that they obviously they lost some players. Obviously Jonah Coleman, Michael Wiley, DJ Williams. But I'm going to say this, and again, I'm far from an expert as well. I like what Brent Brennan has been able to do. It's kind of the plug in the gaps type thing, and I think he's done a very good job of that. Ja'Cory Krosky might merit a Brian Jeffries mention during the broadcasts, I think, at times.
Well, I think just based on what I've seen so far, Mike, he's going to be their go-to guy in the backfield. Probably their every down kind of back. Speedy Luke is going to play a lot more this year, have a much bigger role. But at the same time, I mean, Speedy is Speedy, but he's not an every down back. He's just not built that way. And so I think Lamont and I were talking about this on Saturday night. The best thing about Speedy Luke is his ability in the open field. And so I think you're going to see him in situations where that warrants his talent. He's going to play a lot this year, a lot more than he has the last couple of seasons. But they did plug in some really good running backs, and that was probably a question going into spring ball because of the loss of the three guys you mentioned. Is that how can Michael Wiley was just a workhorse,
right?
And I think one of the best Arizona players in a long, long time, just because not only his abilities on the field, but he was a leader, and that's not an easy thing to replace. And DJ Washington was their big back. Jonah Coleman has a chance to be a real star in college football. And so, you take those three guys out, and that's tough to replace. But they have some depth there, and I think they've got a chance to be okay. I really do.
All right, now let's talk about T-Mac. Rumor has it that T-Mac's a good football player. And
really?
Yes.
Wait a minute. Let me write this. Hang on. I got to write this down.
Take your time. Take your time.
T-Mac is a good football player, did you say?
Yep. Take your time, Brian. I see you writing it down. I wish we could zoom in and see Brian putting this on his notes. Because
okay,
again,
I'm using that for the first game.
You should lead with it. T-Mac is a good
Can I
football
quote?
player.
But I'm going to quote you.
Yeah, well, no, do it. No, you just got to quote me on the all Luke backfield. That's all we need. And then we'll get it from there. But on T-Mac, though, every now and then when you watch somebody at the U of A, there's somebody that comes in here and that just looks different. That just kind of looks a little bit different. I think you can make the case Chris McAllister looked a little different. Gronk obviously looked different. T-Mac's very much of that you just stand next to him and it's like, whoa, this guy looks, this is a different looking player entirely. T-Mac is just, players like him don't come through here all the time. I'll just put it to you like that.
He looks like an NFL wide receiver, Mike.
Yeah.
That would probably be my best description of him.
Yeah.
He's got all the tools. He's got size, skill, smarts, and now some more experience behind him. So should be an All-American this year, barring injury. I think that the one thing, because we're honest here, right? We're very transparent in our assessment here. There's no Jacob Cowing now on the other side. And so teams now are going to load up defensively on him. So I think the key for Arizona as a team is T-Mac will be T-Mac, okay? What the Wildcats need is some guys to support him. In other words, take some of the attention away from him so that you can't cheat and say, okay, we double team T-Mac or we do whatever we can to take him out of a game. No one else can hurt us. Arizona needs to make sure that they've got some other guys that can hurt them. And I think they do. Again, you go back to the depth situation, and I think that they've got some guys that are going to be able to help out there. And and I think that's really important.
Do you want some more help on your show notes?
Yeah.
Okay. Jeremiah Patterson, you're going to be calling his name a lot this year.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Electrifying.
Yeah. Isn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, you watch. See, that's one of those things, too. You can't judge a book by its cover. I've spent my whole life dodging that assumption. But when it comes to a Jeremiah Patterson, I don't care that he's a 2-star junior college player. Like you said, Brian, it just looks entirely different when you watch him. He looks like a player that's going to be on the field and he's going to contribute immediately.
Tremendous moves. That great first step. You love guys when they catch the ball, bang, they know exactly where to go.
Right.
And he's got the speed to back it up. So I'm excited to see him play. I think he's going to be a major surprise for everyone outside the Arizona program to see what he can do.
Let's talk tight ends now. Brent Brennan likes the tight end position. Last year we had Tanner McLaughlin, but that was basically the only guy that really played. You're going to see a lot of them. But Brian, another one for your show notes, Kean Burnett. I think he's going to have a breakout season this year. Very excited to see Kean Burnett. What say you?
Yeah, I think we've waited for this. And maybe now that he knows that he's more in the spotlight, whatever it's been, he's elevated his game in practice. Or they go back to spring ball and now in the fall, he's elevated his game, and we've kind of expected that, I guess. And maybe it's been unfair because of his dad being Chester and one of the all-time greats at Arizona. That sometimes you're labeled that you're automatically going to be a great player. And so it's just taken him some time, and I feel that he's going to have an outstanding season. I think they've got good depth there, Miranda, Powell. And then look out for Sam Olson, the transfer from San Jose State. I think he will be in the rotation as well. And so, Coach Brennan likes the tight end position, and I think they're going to utilize it.
Hey, you want another prediction, Brian Jeffries? It'll probably be wrong, but you can store it in the memory bank.
Does it have anything to do with food?
No, it doesn't. But we're going to get to food at the end of the show. Don't worry. This is just the appetizer.
I knew it was coming. So
this is just the appetizer, Brian. But okay. Sam Olson is going to have 8 catches this year for 6 touchdowns. Boom.
8 catches for 6 touchdowns.
8. He's going to have a remark. He's going to set records by the touchdown percentage. Putting that right there, Brian, you can steal that and run with it.
Okay. All right.
All right. I'm just giving you everything. Brian, I'm basically doing your show prep for the entire season. Let's be honest.
I'm putting together my depth chart, so I'm adding that right now. Thank you.
That's what we're about. You don't need Lamont Lovett next to you. This is all you're going to need all season, Brian.
I'm going to tell him you said that.
Oh, no. Tell Brian. I got a message. I got to bother him later today anyways. So,
okay.
All right. The offensive line. To me, this is an interesting group. Obviously, Jordan Morgan last year, first-round pick. Very, very good. Jonas Savaiinaea, still the guy that I don't know that I've ever seen somebody quite look like him coming in here at 6'4", 335, but he's got ab muscles. It's not he's a thin 335 if that's possible. You return 4 or 5 starters. Brent Brennan today at his presser said that he's got a lot of faith in this offensive line. He thinks that they're developing depth. Brian, that to me is the key in the entire offense because I don't worry really about the other positions. If we get good offensive line play, it is going to be a very good season for Arizona.
Having Josh Baker back at center, I think a real key there because the center position is so important to the offensive line. He's got a ton of experience, almost flawless the way he plays. So I think that's a great starting point. You mentioned Big Jonah. They brought in, again, transfer portal, I think has been key there. They brought in a couple of guys that have got some games under their belt because losing Toledo, I think, that was tough.
Right.
Because you kind of counted on him as a starter. So now you've got to fill that position and you need depth there. And I think that one thing, if you look at Arizona over the years, depth at the offensive line is, I'll call it, it's been a challenge at times. Yeah. And so I think this team has more depth at the offensive line. Now, when I was talking to Coach Brennan yesterday and he just said, I like what we've got. Now the proof is, what do we do when we get on the field against an outside opponent? And I'm going to put that right on the offensive line there. Everything you see right now, okay. Now we'll see it against outside competition and how do they hold up there.
Yeah, Rhino to me is going to be a huge key to this offense. Obviously, you got Rhino at left tackle. They're going to – and here's what I'm thinking. If Rhino at left tackle – I don't think that they would have kept Big Jonah at right tackle if they didn't have a lot of faith in Rhino at left tackle. That to me is going to be huge because we kind of know what we have with Wendell Moy. We kind of know what we have with Josh Baker, Big Jonah, etc. Rhino is going all eyes on Rhino. Sounds like a rock band. All eyes on Rhino.
Well, everyone involved in football fans know that left tackle spot is, as important as the center spot is, left tackle is vital because that's the guy that's, covering the blind side of your quarterback.
Right.
And you got spoiled with Jordan Morgan there.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy just didn't make mistakes. People didn't get around him. And so there was that comfort level. And so, yes, left tackle, huge. And if that position holds up, if it's Rhino and whoever else works there, that will make Noah Fifita even better.
Now, we'll get to Noah here in just a second. But, Brian, have you ever thought about getting a pickup truck? You would look good. I've seen your son Brody ride in a pickup truck, but he's got to drive out the window in it because he's so tall.
Well, yeah, I've always wanted a pickup truck.
All right. Well, you might say to yourself, Mike, where could I possibly get this? And you could say to yourself, thanks for asking, Sanderson Ford, my friends, Sanderson Ford. Here's the deal. Get 0% for 36 months OAC from Ford Credit. See dealer for details. Hey, Brian, you'll like this. Get a load of this. They have a restaurant at this place. It is called the Starliner Diner at Sanderson Ford. All kinds of good stuff. But let's see to ourselves. We can get Brian Jeffries. We can get him the GOAT license plate, because that's obviously what we need to have. But then 0% financing for 36 months with no payments for 90 days on a Ford F-150, an Escape, an Edge, an Explorer, and an Expedition. Brian, those all write themselves with Brian Jeffries getting in and out of that thing.
Okay, I'll take it.
All right, exactly. All right, well, that was an easy sale. There you go. Brian Jeffries, though, with Sanderson Ford. Check it out. All kinds of really, really good stuff. And besides just Sanderson Ford, Brian, the Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Now, you might say, Brian Jeffries, that guy's really cool. Duh. Mike Luke, that guy's not cool. You know what could make Mike Luke a little cooler, though? Hanging out at the Gila River Resorts and Casinos. You've probably seen it from I-10 with the little wave, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
many times.
Many, many times. So again, check it out. It's a fun, immersive experience. You do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. We have a mutual friend, Julio, that I think has been there before. So again, check it out. Gila River Resorts and Casinos. You do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playathegila.com for more details. Again, all kinds of good stuff. Go in with over 4,500 slots and live games, or catch the action at all of our sports books. Brian, have you ever won a big slot machine payout?
Never.
Right. Never?
Never.
You don't strike me. You strike me as the guy that like puts in like a quarter and it comes back with a quarter, like a foul. Really?
I remember my wife one time we were in Vegas and she did penny slots.
Interesting.
And she was up like over 100 pennies, and we thought, well, this is heaven. This is what it's all about.
There's nowhere to go but up from there. So again, either way, check it out. Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Okay, now Noah Fifita. Listen, a lot of guys come through the program, basketball, football, that you kind of look at and you're like, all right, that legacy is going to be very, very kind to that man for the next, 20, 25, 30 years. People are going to look back at Noah Fifita, I think, as one of the most beloved players in U of A history. Obviously, he's got 3 more years to do it. But I'm saying, Brian, obviously there's something different with this young man.
Well, there is, and it goes beyond his ability to play football.
Right.
He is a great leader. He's just a fantastic young man. And you can see that every time he speaks. You credit his family for his great upbringing. And so the other players gravitate around him and his positivity.
Right.
And so he has a chance, like you said, and he already has established that, Mike. When you think about it, I was just getting ready for the season. I was looking back at last season, remembering Arizona won its last 7 games. Of course, he was the starter. In fact, he started the last 9 games. 2,600 yards in his last 9 starts for Arizona, and they won the last 7 of those. And that tells you something right there about his ability on the field. And now I will throw out a word of caution, Mike. Can we do that?
Brian, you're the GOAT. I'm listening.
Okay. So, last year he was the unknown. He was he'd been the backup as a freshman. Last year he was the backup to Jaden DeLaura, and then Jaden gets hurt at the Stanford game. Noah comes in, gets the Wildcats a win there, and then takes off after that. Now, they lost a couple, but then, like I said, they won 7 in a row. Well, now all eyes are on Noah Fifita, and I'm talking about the opponents. And now, just like T-Mac, they start zeroing out. They've seen enough game film on him. They have a lot more to look at now in order to defend him. And so I'm not saying that he's not going to have an outstanding season. I think he will. But it's different now. And so I'm anxious to see how he responds to that, the same way how T-Mac responds when people try and put more pressure on him now. I believe those guys, because of their character and their work ethic, that they're going to be just fine. And they have a chance to exceed what they did last year, and I think they will. But you also have to look, there's another team trying to win this game too, and that's what always fascinates me. So I think Noah's got, just watching him and his ability to not only throw in the pocket, but in particular out of the pocket. As you've probably seen Caleb Williams play here for the Bears in preseason games, and showing the NFL now what he did at USC. And I'm not trying to compare those two guys, but Noah has that ability to get out of the pocket and make things happen. And so I really think they've, you've seen him on some Heisman lists this year, and he should be on Heisman lists.
He should be on Heisman lists.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's no reason to think that he's not going to be in the mix as this season goes on, as long as the team plays well. And that's the type of guy he is. And
all right, Brian, I got another one for you. What do you call a long Noah Fifita touchdown pass?
I'm sorry?
What do you call a long Noah Fifita touchdown pass?
This is a riddle.
No, it's not a riddle. I think it's something that I can give. I think it's something that I'm gifting you.
Oh, I see. Hang on. Let me get my notebook here.
Okay.
A long Noah Fifita touchdown pass. Go ahead.
Noah's Ark.
Now, that would work if the ball's in the air for a long period of time.
That's what I'm saying. It's got to be like a rainbow.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's fine. I'm saying, he throws that 20-yard bullet pass out in the flat, and, it goes for a 90-yard touchdown. We can't use that then. That's just
agreed.
I don't want to get picky, Mike. I'm just pointing that out.
But I'm also saying if there's a lollipop touchdown, just feel free to use Noah's Ark as well.
Put Noah's Ark.
Show notes. All right.
I'm glad I'm talking to you.
Man, seriously, Brian. I mean, seriously, I should be charging you for everything that I'm giving you right now. By the way, in Kansas, so I'm going to be traveling up to Manhattan, Kansas for the Kansas State game. That means that we will find one of those evenings. We are going to find a seafood place, because when you think of Manhattan, Kansas, you think of seafood. Let's be honest.
You're telling me that there's good seafood in Manhattan, Kansas?
Brian, if there's good seafood there, we're gonna find it. I guarantee you.
Oh, there's the key word, if.
All right. Well, again, I am not going to limit it, so I will do my research. But all right, Duane Akina.
Mike, I'll just say this, and there's great places in the Midwest. All right, I've had tremendous meals, barbecue, steak, whatever. I ordered salmon one night in Iowa City, Iowa. Never again. That's all I'm going to tell you.
Hey, wait a second, though, Brian. You're being a little disingenuous, my friend.
I know. Omaha, you're right.
You were right.
Omaha came through. But there's a river running through there. I guess maybe that's it.
All right. Well, listen, I'm just saying I'm 1 for 1 right now, Brian. So you got to give me some credit on that.
You gave me the spot in Omaha.
Yes. Okay. Now, again, check. Yes, that's so we will keep that up to date. All right. Now, Duane Akina. I've been watching Duane Akina for, it seems like 80 years now, even though I'm not that old. Duane Akina is like the hippest dude in the world. He has not lost anything off of his fastball from when he was here. Brian, it's a privilege to watch Duane Akina coach, his energy, everything about him. It's like he never left here. Duane Akina is a Tucson treasure.
Absolutely. I think one of the key guys on this staff, and they're all key, but remember, he was essentially gone.
Yeah.
And then came back.
Right.
And he had a major influence last season that may have gone unnoticed by a lot of people. But having him back now kind of in charge officially, I think is huge. And yes, he teaches the game as well as anybody in football. And the players they soak up everything he tells them. He's a great communicator. And he's seen it all, knows it all. And so that's why when I know in the spring I was reading a lot, and the popular opinion was that, okay, they've got, a couple of good linebackers, good secondary, but wow, that defensive line, I don't know. I think you're going to see, again, because of the transfers that were brought in and his ability to teach the game, that unit up front is going to be better than advertised.
All right. Now, Duane Akina has coached 3 Thorpe Award winners. He's coached I think it's only 821 first-round defensive back picks. You know who he still considers the gold standard when he tells when NFL folks come by? Do you know who he still considers the gold standard?
Mike Luke? No.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Get in line.
Yes. Okay.
Chris McAllister.
Yeah.
I thought that was very cool. I thought that was a fun little fact as well. All right, now, Brian, Jacob Manu, Takario Davis. These are 2 guys that are obviously going to be linchpins of the defense. Both could have gone pretty much wherever they wanted. Arizona has had a long history of I don't want to say because he's smaller than them, but from your Sean Harris's to your Marcus Bells to your guys like that, guys that just play really big. They might not run a 4.1 40, but Jacob Manu, yes, please, the silent assassin, even though I don't know that he's silent. How about that?
I like that. Yeah. Another key part of this defense, a guy that, yeah, you're right. I mean, if you stand next to him, you don't say, wow, this guy's a linebacker, a starting linebacker for a major college football team. He has a great nose for the football, great sense of the game. And I think that's, your reactions from that position are extremely important. And he has all those tools. And, there's a lot of guys in football that may not measure up to what others say about, oh, you should be this size to be really good. He's a perfect example of somebody that doesn't matter. I mean, he just goes out and plays the game. That's all there is to it. And I don't care, how tall or how big or how strong you are. If you know how to play the game, if you've got the smarts, you're going to be successful. And he has been, and he will be.
It's remarkable. When I stood next to him and Noah, I was like looking at myself. I'm like, wait a second here. Maybe I missed my calling in football. All right, I'm just saying. I mean, I'm just saying. Now, the defensive backs. This you have a lot. You're not going to have to learn a lot of new names in the defensive backfield because, outside of a couple, they're all back. Brian, I am very excited to see this unit. Obviously, you got Gunner, you got Genesis Smith, you got Dalton Johnson, you've got Owen Goss, you've got Takario Davis, Traden Stukes. There is a plethora of talent back there. I'm very excited to see what Duane Akina cooks up because rumor has it he's pretty good with defensive backs.
Yeah, pretty good, to say the least. A solid unit, and they will not disappoint. And it's good. I saw a quote from another Big 12 coach the other day, and it was something to the effect of teams better not try and throw against us. Well, try and throw against these Arizona guys, and let's see what happens. I'll tell you the guy I'm most excited about watching, and it's not only for his football acumen, Mike, and that's Dalton Johnson.
Yeah.
I think he's emerged as a leader on this football team and a spokesman on this football team. That's just my sense. I'm not getting that from anybody. That's just standing on the sidelines. And so I'm excited. I want to see all of them play. But he's one guy I think that might exceed expectations.
He really is a quarterback on the defensive side. The year before when he wasn't out there, it always kind of felt like there was no real communication with the secondary. It's just me surmising. When Dalton Johnson gets in there, everybody is kind of on the same wavelength. I think he's one of these players that, again, might not run the fastest 40, whatever the case, but he's always around, and I think he gets everybody in play. This is the epitome of one of those players, too, that you probably don't properly appreciate until he's gone. I'm a big fan of Dalton Johnson, just like Brian Jeffries is.
Yeah, leadership is important on every team, and I think he's one of the leaders on this team, in particular on the defensive side, and it's very valuable. This team has very good chemistry. And I think the other thing that stands out is character, and I'm going to put him definitely on that list, high on that list of just a high character guy that wants nothing more than the team to succeed. He's not a selfish guy. He's a player guy. Wants his team to be good. Wants his teammates around him to be good. And you're excited when you see guys like that come along.
Hey, all right. One guy that I was totally wrong on, and I apologized to him at Media Day, and I even made a video about it. Gunnar Maldonado. I did not understand why Gunnar Maldonado played last year. Gunnar Maldonado says, Mike Luke, take this in your eyes. And he became a machine. Gunnar Maldonado, yes, please, sign me up. Bring him back. I apologize, Gunnar Maldonado.
Every team, there has to be somebody on every team that you got to blame somebody, right? If things don't go well, somebody's got to get blamed. And Gunnar, unfortunately for him, kind of fell into that. And I don't know who it was. It wasn't you, Mike, but somebody last season decided that he was the problem.
Right.
And there's no single person on a football team that's a problem. It's a team game. You go back to Dick Tomey. I mean, it's all about the team. And so, so Gunnar gives up a touchdown or something. That doesn't mean he's a bad player, because guess what? Everybody gives up a touchdown once in a while. And it was unfair that he got that label last year, and it certainly came from outside the team, not inside the team. So I was so happy at the end of last season to see him exceed the way he did. We all knew he had that ability. And again, I think it was just unfair that maybe he'd been blamed for some things. So, yeah, now he's got another year behind him, and that's behind him, and here we go. That's why this secondary, I think, is going to be very strong.
He was way too humble though, Brian. I told him, I said, listen, I said, there's a lot of people that doubted you. Take it out on me. And he's like, no, man, I just play the game. I don't really pay attention to it. And I said, no, take it out on me. And he's like, I'm not going to. And I know.
Had that chance.
I do. Every now and then when somebody gets that chance, you got to take it, man.
Did you take your glasses off?
Well, no, I did. I said, hey, Brian, check this out. And then Gunner, check this out. And he still didn't attack me. So,
okay.
Again, a man of higher character than I would have, because I would have gone like this immediately to him, Brian, if I were him. So now the D-line, the defensive line. This is last year, it was one of the largest defensive lines I've ever seen here. I mean, I still think back to the days of like Parker Zellers, where you got the 240-pound nose tackle and whatnot. And last year it was guys that are like 315 across the board. You lost a lot of them, but you've also revamped a little bit. You got Chuba May in there, who is definitely over 300 pounds. Isaiah Johnson in there as well. You got Trey Smith. You got Ty. What are you looking for from the D-line, Mr. Goat?
Well, how should I put it? Is size overrated on the defensive line, Mike? You tell me.
No, yes, it is. With Duane Akina, it is, because Duane Akina said it is more important for him to be able to just not want to hold gaps. He wants to shoot the gaps. He wants to get after the quarterback. So I don't care as much about the size, Brian. I think you knew where you were going with that, and I stole your thunder.
Strength and speed,
right,
may be more important. I'll tell you one other name, and again, I'm still working on things, Mike. So hang on. Where's my roster here? Got to find my roster here.
All right. What
number
defensive lineman?
Defensive lineman, because I was over at the offices yesterday talking to the coaches, and if one guy I honestly hadn't paid a lot of attention to, and they told me I better start.
New guy or a returner?
New guy. Hang on, Mike. I lost my roster. I'm sorry.
Kevon Darton.
Jari Anderson.
Oh,
transfer
Barry
from
Anderson
Memphis.
From Memphis.
Yes.
Brian giving us a little insider info. We like it.
I was told yesterday that he is going to be a factor.
Interesting. Again, and I got something for you as well. I believe he was a true freshman All-American last year at Memphis. We like that.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Okay. I like that. All right, Brian, spitting some knowledge. Now, Brian, you might look at... Brian, what kind of sunglasses do you wear?
Ones that shade my eyes.
Okay, well, I was going to say, but with when it comes to sunglasses, though, U of A SID, Brett Gleason, he wears Shady Rays like Brian Jeffries should. If we have a picture of this, I went up and I took this picture. If we do have this picture, Kevin behind the scenes, it's the great Kevin Thomas. Maybe not. I just brought it up. But either way, check it out, Shady Rays. The U of A SIDs all wear them. I went up and I literally took a picture of it, and I said, I'm going to put this out on Twitter. And he's like, oh, well, okay, cool, thanks. But Shady Rays, check it out. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code PHNX for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Brian, let's be honest. You strike me as a sunglasses connoisseur. Come on.
No, I wouldn't call myself a connoisseur. As long as they work, I'm happy. So where am I looking for Shady Rays at?
All right, well, great question there, Brian. Here's the deal. Go to shadyrays.com and use code PHNX. Now, let's talk about it. Does Brody Dryden, the great Brody Dryden, does he have sunglasses? He's already near the sun, so he's going to need sunglasses.
Yeah.
Oh, Brian,
that's not Brody, by the way.
I know that's not Brody. That's Brett Gleason. But I went right up to him and I said, are those Shady Rays? And I took that picture. Isn't this an amazing picture, Brian?
Oh, you should go into photography, Mike.
I just look at it. I look at the lighting. I look at the Shady Rays. Everything about it. I think I'm
framed fairly well.
I'm a humble man. But again, check it out, Shady Rays. And one other thing, the Desert Financial Credit Union. Now, Brian, I got a pretty good deal for you here. Listen to this. Now, you might say to yourself, man, I would love to get $200 to pay Mike Luke to go away from me. A lot of people would say that, Brian. Desert Financial is here for you. Go to desertfinancial.com/200. And if you open an account, Brian, you get $200 and get free $200. So, and again, you could maybe pay that for me to go away and not bring you Del Taco cheeseburgers up in the booth.
It only takes 200?
It only takes 200. I'm a simple man. Or
I can raise that in a hurry, Mike.
Or maybe you could even give it to somebody to stay away from you at a far off location during a football game.
You just said $200 and you'll go away.
Yeah. Well, but
come on, you're worth more than that.
No, I am worth more than that. But you could also bribe somebody else to stay away from you if you were going to to a road game as well. But check it out. When when you get a free checking account online, get $200 in bonuses. Get started by visiting desertfinancial.com/200. Check it out. Brian, again, the $200 goes a long way and tell people to stay away from you, this and that. By the way, what are you thinking of that Central Florida game? Are you is that a trap game for the U of A?
Mike, I'm going to be totally honest because I like to be honest. I couldn't tell you the first thing about Central Florida football at this point.
You don't need to.
It's right now. I'm sound like a coach, one game at a time. Lobo football is all I'm really concentrating on. The crazy thing about this, and you and I have talked about this before, and that is going into a new league like this, where in the past and forever, for both of us, that you kind of knew, at least you had a pretty good handle on what to expect from USC, UCLA, Oregon, Oregon State, Washington State, etc. And now, who knows? I mean, that's going to be part of the challenge, at least for some of us here this season going in. It's like it's learning everything about these schools. Usually it's the non-conference. So you're trying to learn everything you can that I didn't know about New Mexico football. And, NAU is familiar. We see them, every other year or so. And then Kansas State. Okay, let's see. We'll delve into them, week of the game, and not only find out about their team. I like to find out about the history of their program. And since we're going to Manhattan, something about the city and the stadium and what have you, anything connected with Kansas State. And it's going to be fun. Going into these new places, but Central Florida, it's down the road, and we'll get there when we get there. I mean, it's a long ways to go, but isn't Disney World right close by?
It is. Also, Brian, I got a new surprise, and this is in real time. Somebody just sent me this that was watching.
Oh, let me guess. You know a seafood place already.
Not only that, Brian, times two seafood places. So
okay.
We will figure this out. We'll definitely figure this out. A guy had a question. By the way, sorry everybody. There's hundreds of comments that came in. Didn't get to really any of them, but one that was very interesting, Brian. Pronunciations on players on teams. That's one of my biggest pet peeves. I don't think I've ever heard you mispronounce a name, honestly. But how do you go about it? Like in an opposing team, but does it go beyond just looking at the pronunciation guide? How does it go about?
Well, yeah, you start there, and if that stumps you, lots of times now the school's on their website, and it's fairly new. And Arizona joined this last year, where they're getting the players with difficult pronunciations to record their name, saying their name, and they post it, and then you can listen to it over and over again. I will talk to my counterpart at the other school, and if it's one that stumps me, I'll call that guy and say, hey. And we usually trade names, and Arizona's got a number of Samoan players on their roster. And so I think that I'm going to get that call, and I'll make that call to my counterparts at the other schools when it comes up. And you want to be consistent. You want to get it right. I mean, I think that's really important. Yeah. And you want to be consistent. So there's usually challenges. I can't think of any time when you don't see a name that stumps you and you start going through. And, here's the hardest part of that, Mike, and it goes for all sports, is that when you're playing some, I'll call them smaller schools that may not have the resources to do a lot. Arizona's played teams over the years, and this usually comes to play more in baseball than any of the other sports where there may not be a lot of resources for the school. They don't put a pronunciation guide anywhere to be found, either in their press guide or their website. And that's frustrating for a guy in my position. I have to start making phone calls then, and it just adds to your workload. So I really appreciate the fact that a lot of schools now have the players just saying their name, and that's the best way. And I do that with Arizona players. New guys come in, I go talk to them. I'm not going to look at the pronunciation guide. I take my recorder with me and say your name slowly so that I can get it right.
Hey, Brian, here's a great question. Bear Down Cats 96. This is fantastic. Have you ever sneezed mid-call? That's a great question.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Have you ever sneezed mid-call? There's got to have been Sneezed like, achoo.
No. I can never remember sneezing mid-call. I'm like everybody else. I've sneezed, but I don't think it's ever interrupted.
All right. Okay. Well, again, I don't know. It's a great question. That's why we rely on our listeners. I like my sneeze, by the way.
Okay.
It's not a good. It's not a good sneeze. All right, Brian. We got a couple more minutes before you give me that $200, so I don't bother you anymore. But first, Tommy Lloyd, year 4, going into the Big 12. This is going to be a different thing. Listen. In the 90s, I didn't realize how well I had it. You had UCLA rolling under Herrick. You had Mike Montgomery killing things at Stanford. And you always had 2 or 3 other teams, whether that was, a Todd Bozeman cheating team or that was a Cal team with, other good players. You're going to go into a lot of different arenas, Brian Jeffries, where there's going to be a lot of fans there. A lot of fans and good basketball teams. Are you prepared for this, Brian?
Well, that's one thing I'm really looking forward to, and I honestly am. I mean, as much as I hated to see the Pac-12 go away, Mike, going to Pullman, Corvallis, Stanford, Cal, even USC for the most part, and having 3,000 people there, if that.
Right.
It's, you love, and I love an atmosphere. I would rather go into any stadium, any arena, on the road at home with a packed house. It gets my adrenaline going. I think it makes the atmosphere that much better for everybody, and that includes the players. I think the players play better in front of a full house. And if you are a competitive player, you're using basketball right now as an example, I would think that would elevate your game when you go in and find every seat filled. So I'm really excited about that. And again, I haven't been to a lot of these arenas, and so I don't know what to expect. But I've gone back and looked at the attendance figures, as you have, Mike, and you're right. I mean, you're not going to, and especially now, Arizona carries that cachet with them. When they go on the road now, everybody wants to see the Wildcats, and so that's going to be an additional challenge. But like I said, I think it's actually going to be beneficial because I think the team will play better when they get into spots like that.
What do you think happened to a school? Let's use Stanford, for example. What do you think happened there? Because that used to be, outside of McHale, that was the most difficult place in the West Coast to play. It was crazy. What do you think happened? Or,
Well, yeah, let's be honest. Mike Montgomery left.
That's a good point. Yeah. Duh.
I mean, and no offense to those other coaches, Stanford is a tremendous challenge, as you know.
Right.
The academics make it difficult to recruit to. It's really tough, and I admire any coach that has been successful there. I mean, what David Shaw did, I think, was tremendous. Mark was their baseball coach. Tremendous what he was able to do because, and Montgomery, is part of that because of everything that makes it tough to recruit to that school. And that's, to me, that's all it is. I mean, that's the smallest arena in the Pac-12. What was the Pac-12? It's 7,000, 7,500 seats, something like that. And so you're never going to have, I mean, when it was full, it made it very loud and intimidating, but just the same, it was still a smaller building. And I think with the change of coaches, they've just never been able to gain that traction again to get back to where they were.
All right, Brian, last question here before we sign off, but I want to talk Arizona baseball for a second here. Chip Hale. People out there, you need to appreciate Chip Hale. He's done a good job. I do not understand. I've never come across something where it's like, dude, they literally was the coach of the year last year. You won the conference. Sure, the postseason wasn't great. I get all that. Chip Hale's done a good job here, Brian. People need to appreciate Chip Hale. Plus, he's a good dude.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the perfect fit, a guy that wanted nothing more to come back to his alma mater, never wants to leave. And he's fine. I mean, like I said, sometimes fans, and I'll take this into all sports, not just baseball, and I have to remind people of this quite often. The other team wants to win too. And so your team isn't going to win every game. And that's the simple facts. And when they got into postseason play, they ran into a hungry team. Grand Canyon is a talented program. They had their experience on their team was tremendous this past season. I mean, they beat other, what do we want to call it, bigger teams throughout the season. They have for a long, long time, no matter who the coach has been. And so, hey, they came down, they played better. Arizona didn't. And, that's the way of the world.
Hey, Brian, so before we sign off here, we usually do this thing where we try to entice people to become PHNX diehards. A guy that is in the company does an impression of me. Tell me if you think this is me or not, trying to get people to become a diehard. Okay. Close your eyes.
Yes, we know this. The Die Hard membership card. You can carry that around and show it to everybody. Say, yes, I am a Die Hard. We all know that we deserve this. Access to all of our premium written content. Yes. We know this. The boss, Saul Bookman. Listen, the AZ Wildcats podcast. You want to get audio of Behind Enemy Lines? You can get that. And, of course, if you want to talk to me, you can go into the Discord lounge and you can hear all about the different fast food burgers that I like to eat. Yes. We know this. The boss, Saul Bookman. I am merely Mike Luke.
I'd hire the guy.
Yeah.
I'd give him a show.
I mean,
Mike, I'm sorry. Here's your $200.
I'm sorry. At some point, I'm just going to start ventriloquisting. Seriously. I mean, that's where we're at. All right. On a serious note, though, we're ecstatic. The GOAT, Lamont, on the call all football season and basketball as well. Brian, you're a national treasure. Well, you're a local treasure that is a national treasure as well. We very much appreciate all the work you do, and you're the GOAT for a reason. Appreciate you, man.
Well, Mike, I appreciate you and all you do for the Wildcats. This is, it's always exciting this time of the year when they all get started again. I mean, you got 9 months of fun, and then it's great to have 3 months to kind of recharge your batteries. And that's why these last couple of weeks before football gets started, I love this time of the year because of the anticipation to come in, not just football and all the sports. And it's a great time of the year on the U of A campus. And really, when you look at all the programs, they already had an outstanding season last year. And I'm talking about program wide. And they got a chance to be that or better again this season. Going into a new conference is, again, just adds to the excitement. So let's go.
All right. Also, one other thing. Don't let Brody slide back into Tucson next time without giving me a holler. Not happy with Mr. Brody right now about this, but
can I make a plug here?
Of course. Oh, okay. Absolutely.
All right. If you follow Arizona Soccer online, that's all I'll say. Follow Arizona Soccer online. Streaming. I'm throwing in just your hints there.
Keep
online,
going.
Streaming, soccer.
Excellent.
Those are the hints.
Also, as far as baseball goes, will we possibly be getting some more? Because again, I very much enjoyed listening to you and Brody. Would there possibly be some more of that this coming year?
That's probably one of the great parts of being a dad is, when your son or daughter wants to, follow you and you get a chance to work with them. It's rare. And so, I have no doubt about it. Now, Brody is gainfully employed. And so he has to make time for it, but it's exciting to have him and look forward to some more.
I'll put it to you like this. The more the GOAT and the more Brody on air, the better we are for it. We will sign off on that note, though, Brian Jeffries.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
All right. The great Brian Jeffries, the GOAT. I am merely Mike Luke. Thank you, everybody. Listen to the AZ Wildcats podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.